Spent most of last year living in Italy, and I want to talk to you about the pros, the cons, what I thought about it. I lived in Rome, lived in Naples, lived in Pescara, and yeah, those are very different cities as well. I traveled a lot around the country, and I'm just going to tell you generally what I thought and what I liked and what I didn't like. Overall, the weather in Italy is definitely a flex. It's much better than Northern Europe, much better than North America, and it's just nice, like 8, 9 months out of the year. The summers are pretty hot, but even then, if you have proper AC and if you don't go outside too much, or if you, when you do go outside, you're going for like a beach or a pool or something, it's perfectly lovely. And then during the winter, if you compare my experience when I was in Poland, in Hungary, in the Baltics, in Germany, in Switzerland, to when I was in Italy, during around like the same months, like December, January, February, it's just so much nicer in Italy. In Naples, even in mid-January, I could get out of my house maybe with like a sweater, maybe a light coat, just a single pair of pants. Whereas like in most of Europe, you're going to have like multiple layers of clothes and all that. The sky was still sunny. There was still reasonable sun hours compared to Northern Europe, where you virtually get no sun, and it's definitely better, especially compared to like the surrounding areas. Of course, Spain is also good, Portugal, the Balkans, and all that. But I really like the climate in Italy, and it would not be fair for me not to mention it as a plus. Second thing is definitely food. Everyone knows about Italian food and all that, but the thing that impressed me the most in Italy was the fact that it was so consistent. Everywhere you went, the food was good. There was not a single place where you're like, yeah, the food is more or less here. No, compared to other countries where I'd go and I'd have a great meal somewhere and then not such a good meal somewhere else. In Italy, it was very consistent, and they just have something else with their, especially their tomato sauce. The tomato sauce in Italy is just like hands down the best. They really know how to make this stuff. And then outside of pasta, I did eat some very good like meat and overall, but if you're from a country that eats a lot of meat, you might like be a little bit disappointed because there's not going to be that many options for you in most places, since they're very pasta oriented. I did, for example, in Milan though, eat an amazing Tier one, which was one of the best meals I had in Europe. So you can find everything, but it's definitely easier for you to find pasta. The first con I'm gonna mention is how bureaucratic and old-fashioned the government and all government structures are. It's absolutely insane. If you don't live there, it's not going to be as bad, though you still might have to get past that depending on what happens to you. But if you do live there, all the permesso di soggiorno, the codice fiscale, and everything that you need for getting any service done from the government, but also not from the government, is going to be like a lot of paperwork, actual paper, not so much website. And a lot of the websites, especially government websites in Italy, they look like they were made in 1995. They weren't updated since. If you compare it to any other government websites, like American government websites or whatever, it's so much worse in Italy. So definitely, there's a lack of technology and an excess of bureaucracy when it comes to that. One thing that's also really hard to understand for Canadians, Australians, Americans, since they're from a really big countries, is how connected Europe is. Is insane, and Italy is right in the middle. So you can take 1 hour flights, literally everywhere in Europe, maybe 2 hour, maybe 3 hour stop, and it's going to be like $20, $30, $50. I never paid more than $60 for a flight. That is insane if you compare it to like any of those other Anglo countries that I was mentioning. And it's truly well connected, especially since it's right in the middle and everyone wants to go. So everyone goes to Rome, everyone goes to Florence, and that means that there's a lot of flights coming in and out constantly. And it's very easy to hop onto those flights without even that much planning. You could buy tickets 5 days earlier, 6 days earlier, 10 days earlier, and the prices would still be very reasonable. So it's an amazing base if you like exploring, if you like traveling. So much better than, honestly, any city in North America, in Australia, in any of those big countries. The second thing I'm definitely going to put as a con are the salaries. Salaries in Europe in general are lower, and in Italy especially, they're not great at all. I was lucky enough to have an online job while I was there, so I didn't have to work to pay for my bills and stuff. But if I had to be working, honestly, it would have been a little bit rough. I would have managed, like, it's not as if you can live on a salary because everything's cheaper as well. But we're talking like 1,500 euros, 1,200 euros, at most like 2,000 euros. That's already a lot. And the taxes are high, even at a lower income. The thing they say is that Italy is not good infrastructure wise and that it's kind of messy, late, chaotic, that kind of vibe. And I honestly kind of disagree. I rented a car twice, I took many buses, I took trains, I took flights, and overall my experience was very, very positive. Most of the time, everything was on time. Most of the time, the roads that I took were perfectly decent. And honestly, the transit that everyone talks about, like the traffic, was really not that bad. And if you take all that, I honestly believe Italy is one of the best countries in the world to live in, as long as you're making your salary somewhere else.